All right. Do you want to discuss anything from yesterday? We were having a conversation and we'd also covered a lot of content.
Mm. No, I'm good.
Okay. So to summarize, basically the last section was all about a critique of how humankind has basically gone into the state of hypocrisy regarding one's own knowledge. I would say I think there is a mixture of hypocrisy and conceit both over there because we've become arrogant about our hypocritical stances also. Um, and what that has led to. So it was a bringing out of these sorts of hypocrisies that about the things that we claim that we have understood but we actually haven't, and we need to, but all of this stemmed from the section we had started talking about the fact that um here basically this is all about the fact that we need to understand, and we had started this because we were talking about how the different orders in existence, the material order, plant order, animal order, all three of them are in system, in harmonious coexistence and order within themselves, and part of the larger order. They're all contributing to each other and establishing this sort of stability with each other, but human beings have not been able to do that. And why is that? It's because for these other three orders, they are able to find balance, or they're able to find their orderliness based simply on laws, regulation, and balance. And all three of these are mechanical. Whereas humans, in order to be orderly, we need to be just. So, hi Manjuji, I was just recapping about regarding this last video that we covered and where we'll be starting from yesterday.
Hi.
Hi. So, yeah, so we had started discussing this thing called justice that humans need to understand in order to live in order, in order to be in harmonious coexistence, and in order to be complementary with each other and the rest of nature. So, in the course of that, we had talked about how humans need to understand how to interact with each other as well as with the rest of nature. And because we will only be ordered based on justice, we will not be able to find order based on laws, regulations, and balance. So, in the course of that, there was this a lot of critique that had been brought out because we started talking about what justice is, and justice is all about values and so recognition of relationships and a corresponding flow of the values that are associated with each relationship. And if we are able to live out those values that are associated with each relationship, that also gives us the authority naturally then to be able to evaluate ki, did they flow or did they not, है ना? And from our part also and from the others part also. So that evaluation we've developed the authority for if we are able to recognize relationships and live out the values. And then based on that evaluation, we will either be mutually satisfied or we will be mutually dissatisfied. And so that is the checking point, that is the criteria of justice. It is only if there is mutual satisfaction that justice can be said to have happened. And if there is no mutual satisfaction, we can go ahead and call it justice, but it will not last because it is not mutually satisfying. Humans do not stick with what does not satisfy them. We are not able to carry on with things that don't satisfy us for very long. They will be changed sooner or later. So, no matter what we call justice, it will actually not be just and it will actually not be stable and sustainable until it is mutually satisfying. And that is why uh, that is the evidence, or that is the testimony to the fact that that is what justice truly is. All the rest are just decisions. A decision would be either in one person's favor or the other person's favor, but that's not justice. So then we got uh, we took some detours in understanding about how why we got derailed in understanding justice because we never understood humans. So how will we recognize relationships? We went about understanding humans as machines and etc. We discussed all of that. Now we're coming back over here to understanding what this thing called justice is. Okay. So, Manjuji, before we start, anything from yesterday? If you have any questions.
It's going around in my head.
Hmm.
I couldn't sleep last night, but I haven't cleared my thoughts yet.
Okay.
So I'll
Okay.
clear and then I'll either get my answer or I'll come back to you on it.
All right. All right. Okay. So I've also collected some resources for if you want to refer to them that give the context of why he's saying that humans have been behaving like machines. I mean, humans have been said to be like machines or like animals or like this or that, which is all about how people, how different traditions have gone about trying to understand what it means to be human and the answers they've come up against and the shortcomings there. So there are resources on the internet, very easy explainer videos about, not from JV, about from regular public educators and articles. I found a couple of articles on Guardian, and a couple of short videos where these educators, science and social science and philosophy educators, have talked about this question and how it has generally been understood or thought about by philosophers through the ages and by scientists uh, over the last century or so. So you can refer to that to see what he's actually responding to.
Okay.
Right?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
Please send them.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just say,
yeah.
it just struck me actually that, I mean, it seems kind of obvious, but actually, in relationships, we kind of think that, what do I want and what do you want? And, how do you find the right partner or right friend or right whatever? But actually it makes sense if there's a wish to have harmony in total with everyone and everything, then it would have to be obvious that there would be definite kinds of relationships and definite kind of roles in a relationship, because without that it would be so ad hoc, right? It would be just like if you find somebody who wants the same things in a relationship that you want, and then and where do you find that person and how? But here it's like you can actually have a just relationship and a harmonious and a fair and equitable relationship with everyone, because there are certain inherent sort of conditions that fulfill those. And so it kind of seems like if you want justice and fairness and relationship which is harmonious, then it would be obvious that it would be definite. So it kind of links those two it's quite an interesting point. I feel suddenly strikes me that.
What do you think? What do the others think?
The other things, maybe like everything that we want.
In the sense, I was saying, what do the others think, like Prachi and Manju, Arji?
Okay. Okay.
Regarding what Pasha you're saying. You're on mute.
I'm saying it seems fair to me.
Manjuji? Regarding this reasoning that Pasha Didi is...
I didn't really understand what reference. Kya tha? I couldn't make out. I heard what she said, but I couldn't really make out in what connection or what.
Okay.
So I don't have any comment.
Okay. So she's saying basically that since we were talking about the fact that, all of us do want harmony in relationships, then it makes sense that, as we have been talking about, that, humans also want to get along and want some harmony in our relationships. Uh, and justice, that's what justice is. It would make sense then that it would that can only be possible if there are definite relationships to begin with. Like if we say that there is no such thing as relationships in nature, in existence, then these are human constructs. And so we can construct them this way or that way, to each culture their own, to each individual their own. That means that there's no actual objective reality called relationships. It's all in our heads. So, I can make up one story, ki father means this, and mother means this, friend means this. And you can make up whatever other story, and naturally we'll be different. It's very unlikely that our stories will match. And so very unlikely that we will get along based on matching stories. So if she's saying, therefore, if we expect justice, that means if we expect harmony in relationships, one way to think about it is that we should then go through this entire process of by chance coming across people who happen to have the same story regarding what each relationship means as I do. So I believe friend is this, but everyone else believes friend means something else. So I need to now find that other person who also agrees with my definition of friend. And then by chance we if we meet, if we happen to meet this sort of soulmate friend, we'll be able to carry out that relationship more easily. So we need to find like-minded people, because our minds can all be different. There can be this diversity of our ideas regarding relationships, but that's such an unlikely thing to happen. Then each relationship we'll have to find that. So there's very low probability of finding justice this way. If there is to be any justice, it would have to be that there is some objective reality that when I recognize it, the way I recognize it will be the same way anyone else would recognize it when they recognize it correctly. So when we all recognize it as it is, we will all be on the same page, because then only will it be likely even that we can have relationships with anyone around us. So there'll be actual real probability or likelihood of finding people to be in genuine relationships with. Because then my understanding of, say, sisterhood will be the same as your understanding of sisterhood, because these are not concocted ideas in my head and your head that happen to match. They are realities that we have seen. So that's what Pashra Didi was saying, I think. Would you like to add anything, Pashra Didi, to that?
No, you explained it really well. Yeah. Isn't that very interesting? I mean, it's very interesting. It seems very interesting
Yeah,
point of JV, no? That it's kind of like a puzzle, no? That fits
it just makes,
somehow.
yeah, with the or like this is how I find it really interesting that you said that, because it seems like, it's obvious then that either there's going to be no justice, or if there has to be justice, then there has to be an objective reality of relationships and values.
Exactly, yeah.
So very, very interesting thing to be brought out. Mhm. You're muted.
Okay. So in a way, it's like I got reminded of my JB when we spoke about when people marry, we do all the things around it,
Hmm.
but we don't explain what is marriage.
Yeah.
So in a way, then it does not have to be a very broad, long list of things of what is marriage, but clarity of what it means.
Hmm.
Uh, so similarly, if we have that for all relationships, that this is the basically this relationship looks like, four things which are the expectation or the fundamental constitutions of this relationship, then it is universal for everything. Now every marriage can still look different,
Hmm.
subjectively, or every relationship, but objective, like what of it is clear in everyone's mind, and then there can be multiple expressions of it, but objective fundamental underlying a relationship is common for everyone.
Exactly, exactly. That's what he's saying again and again, that what the things that are to be understood are the purposes, what you're calling objectives. The
Mm.
fundamental reality to anything is its purpose, its objective, its role, its position in the rest of the system. That needs to be understood, and on that we will be the same. Our expression of it might be diverse. It's like when we eat food, its purpose we need to agree on. We have to agree that the purpose of food is, say, nutrition. Then how we go about fulfilling that nutrition, of course, we can be as creative as we want. But if we disagree on that very thing, then so there is no chance of us matching on how we eat together.
Yeah. And that has also happened in a way that it's so simple as such that purpose of food is nutrition, but does everyone consuming food realizes that? Like, if you ask what is the purpose of food, or when I'm consuming food, is that the purpose I'm consuming it with? But
Yeah.
there are superficial reasons to consume food, like more taste and nice things. Then and we lose the purpose of even food or anything for that matter.
Yeah, exactly. Even despite even having agreed to it, maybe at some level, that's what it's called, what he's calling manna. Even if you've agreed to it at some level, we're not, that is not what we are engaging with when we are actually eating. So at
Hmm.
some intellectual level, I would have agreed, huh, of course, the purpose of food is nutrition. But when I'm eating, that's not what I'm thinking about. That's not the basis of my decision making. Similarly, in relationships, at some level, when we're conversing, I might have agreed, yeah, of course, the role of siblings is for mutual support towards mutual growth or whatever. And but when we're actually living together, when I'm interacting with my siblings and when I'm living with them and taking decisions, is that what I'm actually living by? So वो मैंने एक level पे I've agreed to it, but I haven't accepted it. I haven't really believed it. So that is what he means by acceptance. So right now, all that we do, discourse and conversation, we'll have a lot of logics and agreements even on a lot of things. But really, whether we have even वो जानना and मानना के बीच का difference की बात हो रही है ना, that we are talking about this difference between knowing and accepting. There are a lot of things that we accept, but even when we agree to these things in our conversation, in our logic, that doesn't necessarily mean we even accepted it. We have accepted that which we live by. So, we can say that's what he's talking about. We say that we believe in equality and fraternity and these nice values, but we haven't actually accepted them. We don't live by them. So that means we don't actually even believe in them.
Or maybe we believe in them, but nirvaha karna, what word is conduct, to bring it in our conduct is difficult. For example, out of habit, out of built habit of 30
Hmm.
years, whatever X number of years we have lived. For example,
Yeah.
food nutrition.
Hmm.
Now, uh, to every day make our choices on that basis uh, might not come so easy suddenly, because we have made so different choices. Our taste buds are trained in certain way for 30
Hmm.
years that we are not consciously consuming it for nutrition, or we have sidetracked that basic reasoning to have food. But if we have now that reasoning, maybe to some time down the line, in
Hmm.
terms of time, it will come in our consciousness, like, second habit, or, without being conscious, we will know that this is for nutrition. So similarly, I'm saying, even if justice or equality are the values we truly accept, but we live in a world where we neither have been treated equally, neither we have seen other people treat the world where everyone is being treated equally.
Right.
So it's hard to bring it in our own conduct, because nothing is conducive to equality. So you can still bring it. I'm not saying you cannot bring it,
Hmm.
but it is a slow and conscious process until it becomes like, not effortless. It is an effort till certain time, until it becomes an effortless for you, that
Right, right. So I agree with this, of course, that, even if we've accepted, say, nutrition is very easy because this is something we generally also think about a lot, even if we're not thinking about justice. So even if, say, one accepts, I want to be nutritious. That is the purpose of food, and that is why I want to be eating food whenever I eat food. But because of our habits and our beliefs previously, I am not able to do it. Now, what will be the situation that makes me unable to do it immediately, that there will be a learning curve of getting there? I think there are two things that happen. One is that I want to be nutritious, but I don't know what nutrition is. So, I'll also, that learning curve will include having to understand nutrition. So then, I'll make mistakes and I will try to be nutritious and I'll fail. And then, I'll constantly be working towards building on that. So that itself even if I've accepted it at an internal level, I'm trying to live by that, it'll still take a learning curve. But I'm also talking about this other situation where we have only agreed to it. And so that when we are actually eating food, because it's not part of our conscious priority, when I'm eating food, it doesn't even strike me ki has this been nutritious or not nutritious. And so I won't even be bothered by the mistakes I make. And then there will be no learning curve even. So because the acceptance part has to be done consciously. And then the learning curve begins. If we don't even put in the effort to consciously make it our acceptance, then there will be no learning curve towards understanding it. So that's the distinction over there. So if we decide, this is what he's talking about. We say we care about justice and harmony and equality. But if we did, naturally, even then there would be a learning curve. But then every day when we are unable to live by that, it would strike us. It would trouble us. And we would be working harder and harder to improve ourselves on it. Right? So even if I want to live by justice today, I'm not able to. But when I'm unable to, it'll trouble me that, oh, I interacted here. I was unable to live out justice. So then what was wrong? What went wrong? And it is only when I engage in this reflection that I will actually be able to grow in my understanding and in my capability, right? If I'm not thinking about it only, I'm not bothered. मैंने कहीं agree कर लिया किसी level पे, at some level I've agreed that justice is good. But unless I engage in this process of constant exercise and reflection and then trying to understand better based on my shortcomings, it will never actually improve. So that is where the hypocrisy comes in, where we say we've accepted it, but actually we haven't. Because had we, there would have been a learning curve towards improvement. Okay. Anything about this discussion or the previous recordings before we move on regarding today's?
We can move on now from my side.
Pashwa Devi?
Yeah, I'm fine to move on. Thanks.
Okay. You had some questions actually from one of the recordings. Unless if you don't want to do that now, because I'm in good internet, that's why I'm asking you. We can take them or
Mine?
yeah.
No, I'll do them another time because they're not related to this, like what happened yesterday and stuff. So maybe it'll break the flow. So we can do it another time separately, or
Okay.
on a separate session or something.
ठीक है. Things do cycle back, so maybe if it comes up again, you can catch it then.
Yeah. Sure.
ठीक है. Okay, I'll share. So yeah, yesterday we started this video number 12, where he started talking about the fact that when he understood these 6 merits got established in him, and that allowed him to live with resolution within himself and with prosperity in his family. And prosperity only comes with justice. This is something he had discussed much earlier, actually. So that is why we had kind of paused. Because initially, in fact, the first few seconds of this video start with how to become a family human. So first, there is the self-reliant human being with these 6 merits or 5 merits, because 2 of the merits is balance in personality and balance in talents. And often it is said as balance in personality and talent. So sometimes he'll say 5, sometimes he'll say 6. So self-reliant human being is someone with these 6 merits established in them. Those are the qualifications of an educated human being. That is a real humane human. Before that, we are all inhuman. So first you become educated and self-reliant in yourself. Based on that, when you start living and evidencing your understanding and reliance, you also then become a family human. You become a capable and responsible member of a family. So that is what he started with. In order to become a family human, to live in a family, you first have to be a self-reliant human. And then he described what that was.
परिवार में हम अपने को समाधान समृद्धि को प्रमाणित करने में हम समर्थ हुआ। इसी
So in my family, I became accomplished in evidencing my resolution and my prosperity.
सत्यतावश आपके सम्मुख हम प्रस्तुत होने की इच्छा प्रकट की।
This we've done all this. Because of this reality, I expressed my desire to present this before you, and thanks to a lot of serendipitous coming together, I have reached this particular platform where I'm talking to you.
पर अपन अभी इस मुद्दे पर अपन ध्यान देने के लिए कोशिश किए। मैं समझता हूँ आप सबका एक प्रकार से सौजन्यता सहज रूप में ही उदय होता ही होगा, क्योंकि हर व्यक्ति सज्जन बनना ही चाहते हैं।
So, in this way, we had been discussing the topic of nyaya, of justice, and for that, as I accept it, some credit goes to all of your saujanyata. I've forgotten how I used to translate it. It's something like sajjanta. It comes from being good people, basically. So,
Did you say Saujanya?
saujanyata, and it comes from sajjanta. Now, what would be a good word for it? I keep forgetting.
Generally, I've heard like iske Saujanya se, which is sponsored by, or not sponsored, but gifted.
Yeah, their goodness and their kindliness, their geniality, basically. They're good people. It's thanks to your goodness and your kindness and support that we have been able to discuss this topic.
सौजन्यता के साथ ही सज्जन होते हैं, तो ये स्वाभाविक क्रिया है। मानवापेक्षा,
and it is only with saujanyata that you become sajjan. Gosh, I will have to. Yeah, it is only through courtesy and magnanimity, that's saujanyata. It is only with magnanimity and courtesy that one can become a kind person. Sajjan is basically a gentleman, you could say, or a gentle person, sort of thing.
सज्जनता के अर्थ में ही है। सज्जनता का मानवापेक्षा सज्जनता के अर्थ में ही है। सज्जनता का जो प्रमाण होता है, पहला प्रमाण न्यायपूर्वक जीना।
And human expectations are also in the direction of good-naturedness. Let's call sajjanta good-naturedness, right? So human expectation is also in the direction of good-naturedness. And the first evidence that we find of good-naturedness is justice. Civility, that's also one. Although I would use civility for sabhyata, actually. Good-naturedness for now.
इस ओर आपको ध्यान आकर्षित करने के लिए कोशिश किया। हम कितना सफल हुए आपके सत्यापन पर निर्भर रहेगी।
So therefore, because human expectation is also in the direction of good-naturedness, and good-naturedness is in justice, therefore, I have also tried to draw your attention towards this topic of justice, and how successful I have been will only be seen, or will only be checked based on your own satyapan, is like your own testimony at the end of it.
जो अभी न्याय के मुद्दे पर अपन चल रहे हैं, न्याय तो संबंध मूल्यांकन और उभय तृप्ति के आधार पर मैंने देखा है।
So this topic of justice that we have been moving on, that we have been talking about, that is, as I have seen it, it is basically relationships, values, evaluation. He doesn't say we have to see it.
समझा है, जिया है, मैं स्वयं प्रमाण रूप में ही रहता हूँ.
So this is how I have seen justice, I have understood it, I have lived it, and in fact, I live as its evidence.
इतने स्थिति के बाद हमारे कल्पना ये आई है, हमारा समझ में ये बात ठीक बैठी है, हर व्यक्ति जन्म से ही न्याय का याचक है, सही कार्य व्यवहार करने को चाहता ही है, सत्य वक्ता होता है.
So, upon having seen this, what I have come to realize is that every individual is a seeker of justice ever since birth. Ever since birth, they desire to do what is right. And since birth, they are truthful, seekers of truth.
इस आधार पर क्या होना चाहिए पूछा, शिक्षा संस्कार से क्या मिलना चाहिए? सत्य.
So on this basis, what should there be? What should we receive through education and enculturation then?
बोध होना चाहिए, सही कार्य व्यवहार करने के लिए निश्चित अभ्यास होना चाहिए और विधि होना चाहिए और न्याय प्रदायी क्षमता स्थापित होना चाहिए.
So then there should be some understanding of some comprehension of what truth is. There needs to be practice, a definite practice and a definite way of doing what is right, and the capacity to do justice. The capacity to do justice should be established. So these are the three things, therefore, that must be ensured through education and enculturation, based on what every human being is since birth. So we were talking about what is naturally human. And this is what he's also talking about today. This is what every human being is like since birth.
तीनों चीज यदि शिक्षा संस्कार में हो पाता है, मानव परंपरा अपने आप से शुरुआत हो.
If all three of these things can be ensured through education and enculturation, it will naturally lead to the emergence of a humane tradition.
इसके पहले मानव परंपरा तो होगा नहीं, नाम आप कुछ भी दे लीजिए.
Before this is ensured, we will never have a humane tradition, a human tradition, whatever name you may wish to give it.
कुछ भी कर लीजिए, मैं कुछ भी करो, नहीं होगा, कुछ भी नहीं होगा. मानव परंपरा का शुभारंभ न्याय से ही शुरू होता है.
No matter what you try to do, no matter what you do, no matter what I do, it will not happen. The start, the beginning of the human tradition will have to be from justice.
न्याय के लिए मुख्य मुद्दा नैसर्गिक संबंध है. इसके पूरा स्रोत नैसर्गिक संबंध है, शाश्वत है.
न्याय के लिए, what did you say?
न्याय के लिए मुख्य मुद्दा नैसर्गिक.
So for justice, the major issue are proximal relationships. Naisargic means those that are around us. So proximal, or any better word if you can think of. And so for justice, the major issue are our proximal relationships.
संबंध है, इसके पूरा स्रोत नैसर्गिक संबंध है, शाश्वत है.
Its entire source are proximal relationships, and this is eternal.
और मानव संबंध है ये निरंतर है। ये निरंतर जो संबंध है, शाश्वत रूप में जो संबंध है, इसको हम पहचानना ना पहचानना, जानना ना जानना हमारे ऊपर ही निर्भर है, मानव के।
And the human relationships that are there, they are continuous. And then these eternal relationships, these continuous relationships, these, sorry,
जो संबंध है, शाश्वत रूप में जो संबंध है, इसको हम पहचानना ना पहचानना, जानना ना जानना हमारे ऊपर ही निर्भर है।
So these eternal relationships, these continuous relationships, whether we recognize them or we don't recognize them, understanding them or not understanding them, that is up to us. That depends on us.
मानव के ऊपर ही निर्भर है।
On humans.
मानव जब खूब दिन जब गलती कर लेता है, नियति स्वयं मार्गदर्शन के लिए युक्ति निकालता है।
When human beings continue to folly for too long, for too many days, then destiny itself comes up with some method of guidance.
क्योंकि ये भी हमने देखा है, मनुष्य जब गलती करता है, उनको सही प्रतिष्ठा कौन देगा? मुझको ये समझ में आता है, परिवार में कोई सही करने वाला प्रतिष्ठा हो, व्यक्ति हो, वो उनको सही करने वाला प्रतिष्ठा देगा।
Because when humans make mistakes, who would give them the status of having done right? Because this is also understandable. When someone lives in a family and they do something right, the person who is capable of giving them that status of having done right would be someone who already does what is right.
जो परिवार ही यदि ऐसा नहीं हुआ तो उसमें ऐसा कोई प्रतिष्ठा नहीं, तब क्या होगा? गांव घर में, अड़ोस पड़ोस में कोई होगा तो प्रतिष्ठित करेगा।
But if there is no such family in which there is anyone capable of giving such a status, then what will happen? Then in our neighborhood, in our village, and in our among our neighbors, if there is any such person, they will do it.
गांव घर भी यदि ऐसा नहीं है तब क्या हालत होगा? देश राज धरती में कोई होगा, वो प्रतिष्ठा को स्थापित करेगा। ये नियति सहज काम है।
And if there is no one in one's neighborhood or village capable of this, then it will be someone in our state or nation, or country, who will be able to do this. This is who will establish the status of doing right. That is the destined, natural destiny, basically, he's saying.
तो ये तो स्वाभाविक क्रिया थी। हमको सारे मानव को, आप हम सबको कहीं ना कहीं सुधार की प्रवृत्ति थी ही। कई बार शिक्षा के परिवर्तन के बारे में जो आशय प्रस्तुत किया है,
So this has been a natural tendency. All of us humans, in one way or another, in some way, have this tendency for improvement. And several times we have gone about thinking about our education systems.
प्रवृत्ति थी ही। कई बार शिक्षा के परिवर्तन के बारे में जो आशय प्रस्तुत किया है, ये भी इसी प्रकार की एक चिन्ह है, एक चिन्हगारी है। यह ऐसा प्रत्याशा संसार में है, कुछ परिवर्तन चाह रहे हैं।
So all these times that we have gone about presenting our intent to change and transform education, that also is symbolic of this desire, this universal desire in some form or the other for improvement among humankind.
इतना तो गवाहित हो चुकी है। क्या परिवर्तन होना है वो पकड़ में नहीं आती रहे, उसके लिए ये प्रस्ताव है।
That much has already been testified to. this intent for improvement. But what change we must bring to this education system, that we didn't understand. And it is for that that this proposal is being presented.
शिक्षा संस्कार से ही सर्वमानव में मैंने लोक व्यापीकरण का जो काम है शिक्षा का, वो शिक्षा संस्कार प्रणाली ही है.
It is only through this process of education and enculturation. I'm just translating sanskar to enculturation. It's basically the transfer of acceptances that align with reality, that the kind of transfer that happens naturally within a family without a dedicated program, because that dedicated program is what we call the education system. But a lot just happens naturally as a child grows in the family. So the word we use for that in anthropology is enculturation. That's why I'm translating it as sanskar as enculturation here. So this spread of the right way of living, or the right doing the right thing that must happen in humanity, the accessibility of it to everyone can only be ensured through the education system, through education and enculturation.
करण का जो काम है शिक्षा का, वो शिक्षा संस्कार प्रणाली ही है. दूसरा किसी प्रणाली से लोक व्यापीकरण उतना जल्दी हो नहीं पाएगा.
So it is only this educational process that can achieve this global sharing and access. No other process will be able to accomplish such access as easily.
इसमें हम सहमत हैं. अब शिक्षा भी बहुत सारे विधि से दे चुके, अब मानवीय शिक्षा को प्रावधानित किया जाना चाहिए. मानवीय.
So, and in that I am accomplished or capable. Now we have experimented with a lot of different ways of providing education in the world. So we should also give a chance to trying out this. Yeah, so basically he's saying it'll have to be this process of education only that will best be able to make this right behavior accessible, and the understanding of right behavior accessible to everyone very easily. And that's what he was talking about. And why right behavior? It has to be an understanding of right behavior, a practice of right behavior, and a way of getting to right behavior that every human being desires. Because from birth only, each of us desire to do what is right, but we don't know what is right. So that is what education needs to give us. So the best way to be doing that is through the education system, is what he was saying. Okay, so let's pause there. Anything, any thoughts or comments?
Not exactly what we are talking, but just, I don't know, it just came to me thinking that even slowly education and then acting, and slowly more and more people start acting. For example, businesses or any work you do, once you get out of a profiteer, like I'm just thinking more people start getting educated, then slowly it will come in more people's conduct. And even if very few people will start practicing in the beginning, but if it really comes in your conduct, then you will create systems which will impact larger group of people. For example, let's say I create a food system in which good quality, nutritious food is available at affordable price to everyone, and not to very few people who can make more, who can pay more for organic food. So slowly and slowly, if even education will reach to few people, and the result of your conduct, change in your conduct, will be experienced by more people, then in multiple forefronts will get created in which change in mentality and the world in action will come in.
Yeah, the trajectory increases. It's like coronavirus when they used to show those diagrams, how spread rate of spread increases very fast. So it's not like a slope like this. It'll increase like this, because if one person gets it, they will spread it to 10 others, and those 10 people will also spread it to 10 others. So therefore, in a very short period of time, everyone will be infected. So I think that's what you're talking about. Initially, it will be a little more difficult and only a few people will be able to do it. But if it really translates into conduct, then each of them becomes spreaders, because it's inspiring, because that's all of our natural desires. So if anyone sees it, anyone with even much less receptivity to it also, say the first few people need to have really high receptivity to be able to understand it and be able to transform themselves. But because they've transformed themselves, they make it a lot more accessible, because there are multiple examples also, and B, because now there are more of them, they will also facilitate each other, and there will be a larger network of coming together and making it more easy and accessible. So yeah, the spread will happen bottom up ki tarike se only, and very fast in that way, but it needs to translate to behavior. Otherwise, there's nothing to spread.
Conduct of minimum critical mass.
Yeah. Critical
Because then
mass
it
is
gets
too.
more and more people. If you start working, like, if you have like whole one ecosystem also, which is sufficient, then more such ecosystems will start getting built.
Yeah. And
Like
you
there's
facilitate.
not even one model, or is there? Is is there an ideal model somewhere? Like, so many hundreds of people have done it, and in last 20, 30 years, has anyone been able to establish even one model where they are able to live completely by in this conduct, and then ripples of it are going forward?
I wouldn't say like completely ideal, but I do see a lot of improvement and very fast improvement, and therefore a lot more of spread. Where people have gotten together to whatever extent that they have been able to manage harmonious relationships among themselves, to that extent it has been replicable and inspiring. Wherever there are shortcomings, that much becomes jarring, and that doesn't replicate. So, it's a process, but I would say maybe not an ideal model as yet. It's still a work in progress, but a lot of people working in progress together. So it won't be like one person understands. I feel that it will be several people who understand together. And because they've been practicing and working on this together, like we were talking about, if all of us have the intent to live with justice, none of us are capable as yet. But since we are living with each other, all with this intent, whenever we are unable to, it'll trouble us, and we will earnestly try to improve, which is a very different situation from today, in which most people don't even care. As long as it bothers me, and I'll take my anger out on you. And to hell with understanding what effect it has on you and why you are behaving this way, etc., etc. So it's a much easier and much more conducive and convenient situation today than it was yesterday, or 10 years, a year from today, or 10 years from today. That much I can testify based on my own experience, having engaged with these groups and all these people. Okay. Anything else? Everyone is muted, I think. No.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Thanks, Krishna.
Okay.
Okay, Drishta.
ठीक है. Okay. Thank you. I'll share those links in the group.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Good night.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye. Bye.